9:25 this Thursday morning. Let me talk to Lisa Cusack. Good morning, Lisa. Nice to talk to you again.
Good morning, Ryan.
Well, you're a pilot with Aer Lingus, and we spoke, gosh, can you imagine? It's 2017, so it was a long time ago.
I know. Time flies.
Time flies. Will you, for people who didn't hear that interview, will you remind us how, I think that's what was so impressive about you at that time, was how hard you grafted to get to where you wanted to be. Just give us the potted version of how you got to be a pilot.
I suppose, the biggest thing that people seemed to enjoy about this story was I set up a business and baked and sold 10,000 cupcakes to pay for my flying lessons. And there was obviously multiple failures along the way, not getting cadetships and stuff like that. But like most pilots, I just kept going and going and going till I eventually got there in the end, which was my late 20s.
Okay, you studied applied physics in DCU.
That's right,
And then you were into flying lessons and dispatcher, and then you got your private pilot's license, which you funded by the aforementioned cakes, and then onto a scholarship to keep going with your training, and then eventually you're flying planes. And that's, how have you enjoyed being a pilot up until, let's say, recently?
Oh, it's been incredible. It's everything I thought it would be. I'm one of the lucky people that loves what they do, and I think I speak for most pilots and flight crew when I say that. It's amazing. It's an incredible, very special job. So yeah, I love it. I still do love it. But yeah, it was an amazing journey so far. So far,
so good. But listen, tell me about the loans. This is something I wasn't aware of, that a lot of pilots are like kind of university students after they leave college. They're still saddled with a lot of debt. Can you talk to me about that?
Yes, so I mean, a lot of people aren't aware of this, and I'm one of the very few lucky people that don't have this burden. I was lucky to get a cadetship with Aer Lingus, but the majority, the absolute majority of pilots are paying back a training loan in the region of €100,000. So obviously on top of mortgages and stuff like that, that's something that, you know, when you get on a plane and you're going on your holidays, the pilots that are sitting up the front, most of them have a €100,000 loan just to be able to be a pilot. So that's something a lot of people aren't aware about. So
they pay the guts of €100,000 to learn how to be a pilot? Yeah,
that's right, yeah.
God, it's a phenomenal amount of money to be. And then you're trying to start, as you say, a life, a family, a
that's
house.
It. And I think, you know, that's why I say most pilots love what they do. Because to invest that amount of money, you'd have to love what you do. You know, to say, I'm going to take that loan, that is what I want to do. So obviously it's been extremely hard for most pilots, and with that extra burden in the pandemic.
Because the pandemic unemployment payment, the now infamous or famous, depending on your take on it, the PUP payment, is that do pilots qualify for that?
Well, we don't. I mean, laid off or redundant pilots may qualify for it. I'd be considered in the lucky few who hasn't been laid off. As of today, I still have my job. I'm very lucky. I am, like most of all of my colleagues, on just over 30% pay. So we don't qualify for the PUP because we're not unemployed. So that's an unemployment payment. So really what some of us qualified for was short-term work support, which was around, for me anyway, was €80 a week.
Crikey. So you got 30% of your salary, with the support of €80 per week. You said you've paid off your loan, or sorry, you said it's not your loan. You were a cadetship, so you were okay. But those with the loan, then, how are they going to make ends meet on that?
I mean, they haven't, and I think this is part of the aviation crisis that we're in. There are so many people. Obviously, we're normal people. We have mortgages, we have bills. On top of that, there's a training loan as well. So, I mean, it's been impossible. It's been heartbreaking. It's been extremely hard. People are anxious. They're worried. They're not able to make ends meet. You know, so this is the reality we're facing, the workers in the aviation industry, and there's 143,000 of us, Ryan, and we're just being completely overlooked.
Right, I didn't realise there were that many either. I mean, because what I was mentioning at the beginning of the programme, Lisa, that when I've met two people who are pilots, not for Aer Lingus, but have come to the door in white vans, dropping in, you know, Amazon packages and whatever, and they both said, look, this is what we do, and we're doing this as a side job, as much for the head as for the wallet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody just doing what they have to do to make ends meet. We've got guys and girls gone back farming. We've got guys and girls gone back to their trade, back to nursing, like you said, delivery drivers, whatever it takes, really. It's sad. It's just a sad situation, really. And there's no end in sight. I think that's the more worrying part. Obviously, the news of our colleagues in Shannon and Cork this week, it's been devastating for people. I mean, we consider ourselves the lucky ones. We still have jobs. So, but for how long? That's where we're at the moment.
Well, is there any positive to be taken from the fact that come July, when possibly you're heading back to UK flights are back in business, and then hopefully August sees more flights up in the air again? Do you sense that there's some normalisation on the way even?
Well, there's just been a lot. All there has been, Ryan, is talk. Just talk. There's been absolutely no action. There was an aviation restart plan put together 5 weeks ago. It's still sitting on the government's table. There's been nothing done about it. We are hoping that the government do get on board the EU Digital Green Cert, which is going to be crucial to open back up travel within the EU. And for people who think that's having a vaccine, it's not. That's one of the conditions.
I thought that's what it was.
No. See, that's the thing, and people are misled on that a little bit. So basically, a digital green cert is going to be, you can have a vaccine, you can have recovered from COVID-19, or you can show proof of a negative COVID-19 test. So there are your three options. And once you have one of them, you can get a digital green cert and travel within the EU. Now, it's going to be implemented the middle of June, and the EU member states have 6 weeks to get on board. But Ireland, because we're such outliers, we have the strictest travel regime in Europe. Obviously, we've mandatory hotel quarantine. We're fined for leaving the country. There's guards at the airport. So we will be the last to get on board this. So August is too late for us, Ryan. We can't lose another summer. We're hemorrhaging money every single day. Summer is our time to make money.
But do you think that they're acting out of this expression, an abundance of caution, or do you think they're hysterical?
Well, I think the government are just putting it on the long finger. They're not seeing it with the urgency that we're seeing it with. Obviously, we've bills to pay, but there's more than just the workers in aviation. Aviation, we live on an island. It's 90% of travel. We're bringing in billions in foreign direct investment. There's families that need reuniting. It's a lot more than just kind of people's 2-week holiday. There's so much. It's so important to our economy, and it's just beyond us that the government haven't made it a priority. They really haven't, and it's taken Shannon to close for it to be on the agenda in the cabinet this week.
Let me go back a step or two to the pandemic hitting, and then your pay reduced to 30%, but be subsidised by kind of pitiful 80 quid a week. How did you survive? What did you do to make ends meet then? Because you've proven to be resourceful, to say the least.
Yeah, so when the pandemic hit, I had just bought a house a month before the pandemic.
Oh my God.
And like everybody else, I moved home in my 30s. I saved for 4 to 5 years to save up and buy my own house, get a mortgage on my own, which is an experience in itself. And finally got the mortgage a month before the pandemic. Pandemic hits, and I couldn't even make the first payment. So obviously I availed of the mortgage break like most of my colleagues did. And then I have been living on the €8 a week, which, by the way, will end in the coming weeks for most of us because you're only allowed a specific amount of days. So, as hard as it is to say, there were times when my parents are buying my food shopping. 36 years of age, qualified pilot, degree in physics. How has it come to this? So, by the way, I just like to say, that I consider myself one of the lucky ones because I don't have a family to look after. I have friends and colleagues that have had to move home, sell their houses, rent their house out, move home with their parents in their 30s with their wives and children. It's just a dire situation.
It's dire.
It's really very sad.
It's also for your own... I really appreciate, and I mean this, and admire your honesty, because I think your own morale must have taken a kicking when you're asking your folks to sort out the grocery shop.
Yeah, you think you've made it in life when you finally get your dream job, and you're bringing your parents away on nice holidays to the States and stuff, and then suddenly you can't afford to pay your bills or buy food. That's the honest truth of the majority of us at the moment. Did
you do a few small jobs to keep it going?
Yeah, well, I was able to do some grinds. I've had to rent out a room. I was doing a few cakes for a friend, much to my disappointment. But we've all just tried to do whatever we can to get an odd €50 extra a week even, but a problem a lot of us faced was, I am still flying. I'm flying maybe once a month. A lot of us still are. Our roster comes out monthly, so it's not as if we can actually go off and commit to another job, because we are still employed and we have to work around that as well. So that's been another issue for some of us.
Somebody writes a text to say, will pilots have to do some kind of refresher retraining before they take off again? Because it's a bit scary to think of one returning from a delivery van to a cockpit.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and an understandable concern of the public. The good news is the majority of us that did remain in employment, we have been flying once, if not twice a month for the last year. Regardless of pandemic, we are back in the simulator every 6 months.
Oh, right. That's very reassuring, I think, Lisa.
Yeah. And so that's been kept going. I'm back in myself next week. But all that costs money, Ryan. Going into the simulators, doing all this training, that all costs money from the airlines. And when they're not taking in revenue, this is where the problems are starting. So, but yes, they can be reassured that we're absolutely keeping up to scratch. And the training department are working very hard, full time in the background on that one.
We discussed something last week about trying to buy a house on your own, and I was struck by something you just said a second ago, which was that you took out a mortgage on your own, which was, quoting yourself, an experience in itself. Tell me, I mean, this is not off the beaten track, but how bad was it, or how troublesome?
Yeah, well, no, look, I got the mortgage with Bank of Ireland. They were extremely helpful, I have to say, understanding. What I meant by that was there's no one else to pay it if you can't. So there's a few maybe extra hoops you have to jump through, but it just took a long time. I suppose the savings and the commitment of doing it on your own and trying to buy on your own, and bidding against couples, getting outbid every single time. So I suppose that's what I mean. But I was, again, one of the lucky ones to manage to secure a mortgage. But I'm not an exception. I did have to move home for a couple of years in my 30s, like most people. So, yeah.
Lisa, Grace in Rathmine says, Lisa is amazing. I got to speak with her at a STEM panel careers event in a girls' secondary school a couple of years ago. What an act to follow. She was so inspiring in her captain's uniform. I've no doubt she'll get through this time and stronger with it. It was a lovely compliment to you, and rightly so. My son says another trained as a pilot 10 years ago. He trained in Jerez in Spain. Total cost before flying a commercial aircraft was €153,000. He's still in a job, but is away in the Middle East, and has only recently, 10 years on, finished paying back his loans. I feel so sorry for people working in this industry here in Ireland. Noel says in the late 90s, Aer Lingus flew us home from the Lebanon, and Lisa is a trooper and she'll get through this. So look, there is support for you, but you can't eat support, if you know what I'm saying.
No, that's true. And look, we do appreciate it. We're just glad that the public, you've given us the opportunity now to make the public aware of it. I think a lot of people just think about maybe going on holidays and they write that off and don't really think about the sector afterwards. So we appreciate you giving us this platform, Ryan.
I think there's a perception that pilots are very well to do, very well paid, absolutely sorted in life, and the last thing that they would be talking about is food bills and 80 quid a week and loans, to be honest with you.
And the bottom line is we're at a stage now, I mean, obviously I've just bought a house, so I'm completely broke, but the pilots have eaten through their savings in the last year. Nobody can survive on 30% pay, nobody, so a pilot or not a pilot, and it's very, it grinds you down when people do make those comments all the time, because, obviously we've worked hard to get to where we are, but like everyone else, we've had to save up and get the mortgage and pay the bills as well. And personally, I don't have money left, and it's it's frustrating situation. And look, pilots are waking up every day anxious, upset, worried about their futures. It's no way to live,
Here's to brighter days ahead, Lisa. Your candour and honesty is so refreshing and welcome, and appreciated, and wish you every good luck and happiness. Good to talk to you again.
Thank you so much,
Lisa.
Thanks,
Lisa Cusack, thank you to you and your family. Wish you the very best. Lisa joining us live this morning to talk about that side of the world that I wasn't as aware of as I probably should have been. But there you are at 21 minutes to 10. We'll be back shortly.